This video is all about painting a landscape environment from scratch. I'll show you the main steps as well as some tips and ideas how you can improve your painting process. My name is Victor, I'm a concept artist, I work for film and games, and I'm really excited to show you the final result. Alright, let's start. And the theme for this painting is like a chase scene. I was thinking to add a little bit of a pirate theme as well. So we have two characters and one is chasing the other, or maybe they had a fight and one realized that he's going to run away from it. In the background, I was thinking that we can add like a temple or an entrance to a temple. At first, I'm working very roughly with a very simple line work sketch, just trying to place all my main elements in the scene. I'm thinking I can place this guy here on the right, and then I'm starting to work on the second silhouette, and I want him to be in a very dynamic pose, like jumping on a cliff, one leg bent and all that stuff. I'm also thinking what kind of clothing he should have, and probably it's gonna be one of those typical pirate coats trailing behind him while he's running. I think it's gonna work just fine. We're also gonna give him a little sword and slowly kind of finishing the whole sketching process, the line work sketch in the beginning. And now we want to figure out what kind of mood we're going for, and I'm thinking that it's gonna be slightly darker, so we don't have any sky in the background. It's gonna be a very closed scene. How to arrange these cliffs in an interesting manner, so compositionally, so it leads the viewer's eye, and as well it looks a little bit interesting. And right now you don't have to worry at all about what kind of brush you're picking. Just think of the value you're choosing and the hue for the elements you're placing, and how you're gonna arrange these shapes so they're as pleasant as possible and they tell a story and they complete your idea, complete your composition idea. Same thing for the characters, just a very rough, quick block out. I'm just gonna fill them with some value. Alright, the background is coming next, and I'm thinking there should definitely be some sunlight in the scene and maybe some epic lighting scenario as well. So for now I'm just gonna keep it neutral, so not too bright, not too dark, and let's figure out the rest of the scene and then come back to the lighting. And another important element is this wave hitting the rocks and kind of splashing water everywhere and foam and all that stuff. And I really figured that it would be great to put it behind our second character that's riding, and so that his silhouette is very visible and creates a nice contrast and a nice focal point in the scene. And now I want to figure out what kind of forms we're working with. So you can see that I'm putting down some very rough brush strokes and describing the shadows, which areas are lit, which areas are facing away from the light. Spending a bit of time to describe this wave crashing onto the rocks a little bit better because it's around our focal point. You want to make sure that you're selling this idea of huge force hitting the rock and then making a big splash and all that stuff. And now this is the first attempt to work a little bit on the background, on the temple entrance, and definitely we don't want to keep it bland. I was thinking that later on maybe I can add a bit of personality, maybe some sculptures, we'll see. But for now I'm trying to roughly describe the form a little bit. So where's the entrance, where the light is hitting, what kind of rocks we'll have over there and things like that. I'm thinking right now that we'll have the bottom part of the image, so the foreground in the shadow, the middle ground and a little bit of the background is going to be hit by the light from the right. So I'm already planning these things ahead, and that's why I kind of separated the scene into layers so that I can easily adjust the lighting. Now I'm trying to unify the whole lighting situation and adding these warm tones on top of the waves as well as in the background, so they start to work a little bit better together, and that's our goal right now. And again, after spending some time on the background, you can go back to your focal point and try to paint a bit, describe it a little bit better. So never get stuck into one spot, because this might lead to inconsistent feel in terms of the rendering of the image. That's why I'm jumping background and then middle ground, foreground and so on, then one character, then another. I'm never spending too much time in one place. Also, a good idea would be to zoom out and kind of look at the zoomed out image in a small format as well. I'm starting to describe what kind of lighting and what kind of form I want those rocks to have. Maybe the light should hit them from the right, or maybe we'll create a lighting scenario that comes a little bit from the top. So for now, just experimenting and trying to think which options might work best. It's okay to test out various approaches, and whatever works and whatever you feel is right, go ahead and keep that one. And I'm also thinking ahead about the water in the foreground. It's a very important element and gonna sell like this whole feeling and atmosphere of the whole sketch. Could work if we would make it a little bit warmer here in the lit side and then colder and darker in the foreground because it's going to be in the shadow. I'm trying to describe typical water surface with all the foam and those patterns on top of it, and trying to give it a little bit more juice in terms of color and saturation. It's going to look great if there is going to be a contrast of temperature as well as contrast of value and, you know, surface detail between these rocks, like cold bluish rocks, especially in the shadows, and this water being lit by our light source. I'm going to think as well as how to describe better the whole atmosphere around our characters and make sure that we're bringing all this movement and force of the water into the scene, complementing these shapes, very rigid and edgy shapes created by the rocks, with the smooth surface and very fluid shapes created by the water movement, all those particles in the air and kind of all this atmospheric perspective that we have in the scene because of the environment we're in. Oh, and by the way, don't forget there is a free brush pack in the description, so feel free to grab it and experiment with it in your own paintings. It's a pretty good time to start integrating the rocks into the environment, right? We want them to feel like they're also wet and they're part of the environment, so there's water gushing over them, and then we want to create like this feeling of movement as well. So you see now I'm adding a little bit of another smaller wave sort of like crashing onto that rock formation as well. And all the time I'm kind of zooming out and trying to make sure that the whole image feels as a whole consistent and that the shapes I created kind of work well in terms of composition. And now you can see that I'm figuring out that you should add this warmer tone to the big wave as well, show that there's light passing through, or maybe there's something a little bit lighter behind it as well. And now it's time to continue to work on the background because I kind of left it unattended for a while. It's supposed to be a destination for our characters, and it shouldn't be just like a very vague entrance. Trying to think of a way to add a little bit more interest, and I'm already seeing some sort of silhouette onto the left side, and maybe it would be a great idea to work on it and kind of develop it into a whole story. So maybe there are like some ancient statues signifying the importance of this temple. So that might work. Essentially what we're going to do right now is define these shapes and forms. We know where the light is coming from, so it's pretty straightforward. We just want to describe and indicate some sort of statues of some warriors, right? And because this is a background, we don't really have to define and detail everything precisely. We just have to indicate, show where the shadows are, show a little bit of the areas hit by the light, and give the viewers a little bit of space to just imagine by themselves what the statues might show or what is behind them. Chiseling these objects a little bit more until we will have a clear image and sort of the statement is clear, and at the same time I'm thinking what else can be done to improve the image and how to round up everything and make it consistent, as much as consistent as possible. So as soon as we'll be done with the statues and as soon as this temple entrance will look like a decent secondary focal point, we can start thinking about our characters as well. So right now they're just blocked in like silhouettes without much color, description of form. So I'm already thinking how should I tackle our character, and for this one it's going to be probably just like a blue trench coat pirate type. We're not gonna spend too much time just indicating some colors, indicating some details, working a little bit on the sword to make it look more realistic. Thinking that for the second guy on the right, a red coat would work just fine, but he's here in the foreground. He's gonna be really blended in with these rocks in the darkness, which means we don't need a lot of contrast here in the foreground. So instead of that, instead of having a wide range of values, we should group it all together, create a single shape, and I would maybe even put some water particles, splashes in front in the foreground to blend things even better. We will work a tiny bit more on detailing and making sure that all image is consistent, and then we'll have a look at the final painting. Now let's look at the final image. So I spent a little bit of time calibrating the colors and maybe sharpening the image a little bit so it's not so blurry in some areas. That's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, it helps a ton. Thanks so much for watching again, and I hope to see you in the next one coming soon.